Good morning, everyone. Hi. Hi. Yeah, we had a few of you. I see that we're here. We're at our place last night. We had a love feast, which was another fundraiser for UCP. Thank you for coming. And we have a few people here who really helped out and made it possible. My daughter, Juliet, and her boyfriend, Gianluca, and my husband. Thank you for helping out and making it possible. And thank you to all of you who showed up to support that. It was really a good time. All right, so we are continuing our focus, our study this week on the powers, the principles, the spiritual laws that we're discovering in this book, The Abundance Project by Derek Rydell. And just so you know, I am just a student of this, as you are. You know, we're learning this together, and it's all layers, you know, and as you practice it, you find another layer, and then you get that, and then you find another layer. And, you know, we're all growing together in this. So last week, we looked at the importance of the law of circulation, right? The law of circulation, how all of life works by this principle of circulation and working in cooperation and working in community. And I shared ideas about, you know, my breath, our breath, as we breathe and in and out, we circulate it, and the exhale goes, and the trees and the plants receive it, and it's their food, and in exchange, they return it as oxygen, and it keeps the flow going. Our blood circulates through the circulatory system in our body, and we can share our blood, you know, with somebody who needs it, who's on an operating table or something, and our body just makes more of it, you know. And I talked about how we were at the beach, and really I was just so moved by watching the tides roll in and out, the ebb and flow, and that cycle that is constant, that has been constant for, I don't know, millions, billions of years, who knows how long, and an entire shoreline ecosystem is dependent on that cycling. And how, you know, when we share our love with others, we notice maybe we have an increase in friends. When we share our energy in a positive way with others, we notice we have an increase of joy and fulfillment. So we trust that when we give, when we share, that life provides, because it does. And then we stretched our consciousness. We stretched it a little bit to include the possibility that this same law of circulation is also at work in our financial well-being. That when we give from our heart, when we give from our heart of our good, we circulate it out into the world, and it does good in the world, and then it circulates back to us as joy, as love, as an increase in abundance, right? And so then we looked at the 7 practices where we can put this principle to work in many different areas of our lives. And I gave you some homework. So, how many of you worked on the idea of giving away? Oh, good. Yes. Oh, good. This was clearing out like the physical junk in your junk drawer or in your garage or in your closet, like clearing that out. Good. Good to see. And how many of you worked on the idea of giving up? Which was, oh, good, yes, a few of you. This is giving up the clutter in your inner junk drawer, like resentments and complaints and criticism and judgment and rigid opinions, right? We're clearing that out. Okay, good to see. And how many of you worked on the idea of giving to yourself? This was, oh, good. Some of the same people. Wow, you put this to work. That's great. This is the idea, the meditation that we did briefly last week and that was in the book, that if I loved myself completely, how would I treat myself? I really love myself. And how can I give to myself what I've been waiting for other people to give to me? Right? How can I give it to myself? All right, so we're continuing this week on exploring this law of circulation, but we're focusing on 3 distinct practices and principles that really can help us with inner peace, create more inner peace, to help us create more balance in our lives, and to really empower us in important ways. Right? And interestingly, these 3 principles are reflected in our offering affirmation. Anybody remember our offering affirmation? If you do, so let's say it together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. All right, so we're going to come back to that. We're first going to take each of these principles and look at them individually and see how they apply to our lives, and then we'll go back and see if we can find a connection with our offering affirmation. Okay, this is a powerful spiritual law. Powerful spiritual law. So the 3 ideas is, number 1, you can't give what you don't have. Number 2, you can't keep what you don't give. And 3, you can't sustain what you don't receive. All right, so this first idea of you can't give what you don't have. That's logical. Makes logical sense. If you don't have money, you can't give it. If you don't have food, you can't share it. If you don't have a car, you can't give somebody a ride, you know? But this also is true for intangible assets like love and devotion, and commitment, and energy, and time, and talent, and energy, right? So, if we don't have it because our inner stores have been depleted, right? We can't give it. But we still try, don't we? We try. And some people give and give and give and give and give in relationships, in work, in social work, in the world, whatever. A lot of people give and give when they're still, where the inner resources have been drained, have been exhausted, where it's empty, right? And that's not sustainable, is it? No. What happens eventually is that imbalance, right? That imbalance begins to manifest as chronic fatigue, depression, sometimes addiction, sometimes passive-aggressive behavior. These things are very apparent. And here's the thing, a lot of this stuff, we inherit it, right? from long ago, from sometimes our parents, our teachers, our preachers. We want to be good little boys and girls. We want to share our toys. We want to give, right? We want to help mommy, and what happens is we get approval for that, right? We get approval, and then that continues, and sometimes that's a self-perpetuating loop of seeking approval, craving approval, right? And so, if that's not true for everybody, right? But if you can relate to this, right? It is time to give to yourself. It is time to fill your inner storehouse first, to learn how to fill that inner storehouse, and to embrace this sense of I'm worthy. I'm worthy enough to give to myself, to really feel full so that I can give. And look, you're all here. You're doing it right now, being here. You're receiving nourishment. You're open to receive spiritual nourishment. So that's part of it. So yay, good for you. We're on track, right? So, and also, as we talked about on the first week, this importance, we want to build a sense of having. This sense of having. And we can't do that when we feel depleted, when we feel like the tanks are empty, right? Can't do that. And so the reason we want to build this sense and embrace the sense of having is that it's a spiritual principle. And as we talked about that first week in that passage in Matthew, that to those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. And from those who don't have, even what they do have will be taken away. And you think, that doesn't make sense. It's cruel. But it's a spiritual law. It's a spiritual law because the universe just reflects back to us what we believe to be true about ourselves and how we're experiencing ourselves. So if we're experiencing ourselves as drained and depleted and the tanks are empty and that we don't have, that's the don't have basket. Right? And that's what the universe is going to reflect back to us. And so we want to fill ourselves up first. We want to feel and build this sense of having by giving to ourselves. And I'm talking about mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And you all know how to do it, right? You know what you can do that you feel self-nourishing, that you feel, fills you up, right? And it's just a reminder to do that. And to build this sense of having, Derek talks about in his book this idea of doing an exercise called night pages. And the night pages, the first step in the night pages, excuse me, I got to take a drink of water. I have to nourish my throat here before I can give it any more. So the night pages, the first step on the night pages is to write down everything that you have, both internally and externally. So whatever, and Pat's going, that's going to be a long list, right? Yeah. I mean, I think the first time you do it, you think of everything. Okay, I have a roof over my head, I have a car, I have food in my refrigerator, I have friends, I have a spiritual community, I have, whatever it is, I have wonderful music, and or I have talent, I have an ability to speak, or ability to play music, or ability to do wonderful math. I have this, right? And also the internal things like love, like I have maybe a sense of humor, that's a wonderful thing to have. I have patience, maybe. I have all of these internal things that you think that you can identify as having. You want to keep that, you want to write that down. And then also things that you have access to, that you don't necessarily own, but you have access to, like a public library. We have a really fabulous public library in Chapel Hill, don't we? Yeah. That's available to us. We have really wonderful roads, very functional roads that are nicely landscaped. I have to say, when we moved to North Carolina, I thought, they really do take care of the landscaping of these. In Southern California, they were like, not necessarily, unless you're in Beverly Hills, and then, of course, it's very nice. But, most roads, no. So, I have access to that. You have access to a spiritual community, right? And friends and community. So you write down all of the things that you have access to and all the things you have. And this builds this sense of having. You're building and embracing a sense of having. Okay, so the second idea is you can't keep what you don't give. Can't keep what you don't give. Okay, so now that you have nurtured yourself, you've filled up your tanks, you've built this sense of having, you've embraced this idea of having because you have documented all the things that you do have. You come from a place of having. In order to keep that, we must circulate it. We must give it. This idea of we can't keep what we don't circulate. You want to keep that circulation flowing. Now, I talked a lot about circulation last week. So I won't belabor that, but I want to focus on one of the aspects here that he talks about. And this is about giving without agenda. In other words, not giving to get. Not giving to get. For example, acknowledgement, appreciation, love, a badge of honor, recognition, a gold star, right? We want to give unconditionally. And he says here, if you give for any reason other than just to give unconditionally, then you're manipulating and creating a greater sense of lack and separation. It's a manipulation, right? So we want to give because it's our nature to give. We're created that way. We are created to work in community, to work in cooperation with each other. That's how we're created. And when we're willing to be open, that divine can pour more of itself through us and really fulfill a higher purpose when we allow it. When we allow it. God bless you. All right. So this is true for both our financial gifts, our financial gifts, and also for things that we feel that we're not getting from someone else. To give what we feel we're not getting from someone else. So if we feel that we're not getting appreciation from someone else, we want to first give that person appreciation. If we feel like we're not being heard, we want to be willing to give the gift of listening. If we feel that we're not getting respect, we want to first give respect. And then watch as that relationship changes and shifts. Because you've put it into motion, you've primed the pump, you've started the circulation. That's, but the thing is, you don't want to do it for that reason. That's because that's conditional, that's manipulative, right? So this is very tricky. So you want to give because that's your nature to give. So again, this is difficult. And we want to do baby steps here, little baby steps, and just kind of take it a step at a time. How am I feeling about this? Am I giving from my heart just because that's my nature, or am I giving to manipulate? It's really, really important for us to recognize and remember that, And so, ultimately, we want to give to life unconditionally. In our relationships, in our work, in our community, in life. And remember the balance. At the same time, remember the balance of giving to ourselves, of nurturing ourselves, and keeping that dance. It's a dance. All right. So the third thing is you can't sustain what you don't receive. You can't sustain what you don't receive. So part of this is asking for what you truly want. Asking for what you truly want. And asking, loving yourself, appreciating and valuing yourself enough to ask to be paid what you're worth. And this, I have to say, is really important for women. Isn't it? Because historically, culturally, the patriarchy, go Barbie. She's out there fighting the patriarchy for us. But it's historical. It's something we've had to, an internal fight. Even if it's not external, it becomes internal. So we want to make sure that we are empowered. And if you own your own business, if you own your own business, you want to love and value yourself enough to set your prices at an amount that reflects your gift. If there's something about, and a lot of us are in healing professions or holistic or giving or spiritual work, and there's something about just because it's a healing modality or we're sharing or we're giving or it's spiritual, we think we need to give it away. Like people are going to expect us to give it for free. Doctors don't feel that way. They're in a healing profession. They certainly value their work, and they charge a lot for it. And I'd be willing to say that many of us, what we offer is just as valuable, right? Maybe even more so, because it's holistic. We're a lot of us addressing the holistic mind, body, and spirit as opposed to just treating the symptoms. Just saying. So, on another level, this is about loving and appreciating yourself enough to receive what's being given to you, to receive a compliment when someone gives it, to receive a smile when someone offers it, to receive help, support when someone is offering it, to really receive it. To love yourself enough to allow yourself to receive graciously, because you're worth it, right? We're all worth it. And so we want to take a moment and receive it. And this is also true for all of the gifts that the universe has given us. All the beauty that's around us, all of the magnificence of life. We want to just take time and receive it. And receive. And be present to it. My sister was a master at this. Many of you know that I just lost my sister. And, she was 25 years my senior. She was much older than me. But in some ways, I was closer to her than I was my brother. We were very close. And she was a painter. An artist, a beautiful painter of big canvases, a beautiful, successful painter. But she lived life as an art form. She lived life as an art form. The way that she spoke was an art form. The way that she shared stories was an art form. The way that she placed objects in her house in conjunction with other things that you wouldn't necessarily think that those things go together. But, like she creates this tableau, like say everywhere in her house you look, it's like a painting. You could put a frame around that, It's a tableau. The way that she wrote a grocery list was artistic, was a work of art, And she would talk to me, and she would say, Victoria, do you notice the light that's coming through this tree and how it changes when the sun changes? Do you notice, look at the shadow that this thing is casting on another object. Look at the shadow. And she would say, the negative space is just as important as the object itself. And over time, she would say this over time, and it really stuck with me. And she changed me. She changed the way I saw and the way I don't miss much. Just everyday, ordinary objects, just to look at them differently, just to see it differently, as an eye, with an eye of an artist. And that's how we want to do. We want to see it. We want to receive it. That's taking time and noticing and receiving it. It's just so magnificent. If we don't take the time to receive it, it's just like the gift is wasted. Amen. How many of you saw the Perseid meteor shower? A few people. Yeah, I know it was late at night. But I have to tell you, it was totally worth staying up till 1 a.m, seeing that. Oh my God. It was just incredible how big not comets, meteors. Yes, meteor. Perseid meteor shower. That's it. Oh my God, they were so big. It looked like a comet because it was just so bright, so amazing in the sky. So we want to be there, be present, be available, and receive. Receive it all. Okay. Yeah. So again, the three ideas here are: you can't give what you don't have, you can't keep what you don't give, and you can't sustain what you don't receive. So let's see if we can break this down and look at it in connection with our offering affirmation. So the first part of that is divine love through me blesses and multiplies. So what is that? That's that life energy, that infinite, universal love that is moving through me, in me, as me. When I recognize that, that's the gift that is multiplied. That is what is being blessed. So what you appreciate appreciates. All right, so that's that part of it. All that I have. And we talked about this, all that I have. So now that I recognize that it's important for me to fill up the reserves, to nurture myself, to nourish and build a sense of having by documenting what I do have. All that I have, I'm recognized, I'm conscious of it, and that is what multiplies it. All that I give, right? Now that I have, I am giving. And when I give from my heart, unconditionally, without an agenda, to life, it blesses it, it multiplies it. Right? All that I give, all that I have, all I give, all that I receive. Now I know I am receiving. I am opening the channels to receiving. And I receive in this moment. I don't have to wait to receive. We're not waiting to receive something. It's all right here. We're just receiving. We're receiving all that's around us, and we're opening our hearts because we're giving. We're in that energy of circulation. We're opening up to receive totally. And acknowledging that is the thing that blesses it, the thing that multiplies it. And the last part is, and all that I am. All that I am. That's just completing the circuit and recognizing the holistic nature, my spirit, mind, and body, are engaged in this. All aspects of my body are engaged in this. Right? So when we're going to do this afternoon, or this morning, you're going to look at it differently, right? We're going to see it differently. You'll probably never say that again the same way, because now you know what it really means and what you're activating within you when you do that. Right? And it just blesses the whole community, blesses us forever. Right? Forever. All right, namaste. Hi. If this video has inspired you, opened your heart, expanded your consciousness, filled you with hope, empowered you in some way, we encourage you to support what we offer here at Unity Center of Peace by making your donation now. And thank you.